Prof, it's good to have you again. And today on the conversation, I think we should talk about more on minimum wage and how much the lecturers and professors in the university earn. Let's compare it to that of the senators because a lot of lecturers are complaining, that they should earn more or maybe at least equal to what senators used to earn. Considering the work of the Senate and the work of the lecturers. Let us see if it tallies. Let's find out if the lecturers are earning exactly what they deserve or they are being less paid. So, on that note, let's start from the tertiary institution. From there, we'll find out because personally, I'm not a lecturer, I'm not a professor, so I don't know how much they earn and what their job is. So, let's start from your own experience in the field. Comparing how much the lecturers are being paid and the workload, are they equal or is somebody being maltreated?
Well, I'll rather start on a more general note because lecturers are members of society. We do not operate or live in isolation or in a vacuum.
Mm.
What is the minimum wage in Nigeria today? I'm told it's about 70, 75. I hear that some states are paying. The other day they said Imo State raised it to about 100 or something
Mm.
like that. But even at 100, is it realistic? Is it a joke? In a country, when you hear some people saying Nigeria is not a poor country, I want to agree. Nigeria is not poor. It is just the leadership. We have a poverty of leadership. We don't have a poverty of resources. Probably also poverty of resource management,
Mm.
that now tends to impoverish the people. And you have a callous system run by very callous people. Otherwise, you cannot have a situation where you sell a liter of petrol between 800 and something to 1,000 naira, and you put so somebody's living wage is my full tank, for instance. If I fill my tank, it's about 70,000 naira, and somebody is supposed to live on that for 1 month. I mean, in the public sphere, we are not talking about the private because that's a different kettle of fish. There are people who earn less,
Mm.
working for in private scenarios and so on. But in the public sphere, how just, how realistic um, it is that this country pays and is very proud of it that they are paying a minimum wage of 70,000 naira. That to me is very absurd, very um, wicked, if you want to use that word. A country where run by wicked people, wicked politicians. That is the kind of thing you get. People who are not thinking of tomorrow. People who are bankrupt in terms of when you talk about conscience, when you talk about anything that is positive.
Mm.
So if you move away from that and come to move up the ladder and probably come to those of us who are called lecturers, and you begin to look at what we do. I've seen recently in the social media people circulating the index of income of lecturers across different African countries. And you see that Nigeria is the least. We
Mm.
are the poorest, the poorest in terms of payment as lecturers across Africa. And that is also a joke. How does somebody, if you take the prophet, we usually say professors, not because they are the most important in the system, but that is the highest point. And then
Mm.
it's easier to use that as a point of reference, and you say a professor earns about $300 if it's actually up to that. And from that, in a very tormenting and tormented country, Nigeria, you want him to feed his family, pay for publications, buy journals, buy books. I used to blame some of my younger colleagues or even my peers for not buying books. But you have to be very passionate. You have to go the extra miles for you to be able to buy books, subscribe to journals and all that. So it's a joke. It's a joke. You can't run institutions like that. And when you consider that education is supposed to be the backbone of a society, of an economy, a future-looking society, then you begin to you tend to believe that this country does not really believe in development. That's why most times I talk about underdevelopment. What we have experienced over the years is not development, but a systematic underdevelopment which seems to have no end. Otherwise, you cannot be arguing whether you need to make your education budget up to 26%. That is the UNESCO's recommendation and all that. I hear that Enugu State is doing 33%. That is very commendable, But we vote money for all sorts of things, but education, every other thing can go. But when it comes to education, it's always impossible to raise it to the UNESCO standard. So people continue to run from pillar to post. People continue to, engage in this. What now seems to be a circus. A circus is a place where you can have clowns, and clowns are ready to hit their heads on the same object 100 times, as long as it helps them to entertain themselves and entertain the public and the viewers. That is the type of thing we are doing. In our last conversation, I think I mentioned to you how we came in as lecturers. We were earning about 2,700 naira. It was a bit fulfilling. Then from that time up till now, the lecturers union, that is ASU, has been going on strike, negotiating with government. You want to, the same government will call meetings, then they throw in something, everybody will rejoice. And that's what you hear today, something they call a wage award. And people are clapping. Any day they remember, they throw in 35,000 naira. And people are... There are some of these people who drink wine that is about 250,000 naira a bottle.
And they will not finish the wine now.
And you give somebody who has family, who has children, who has responsibility, you say you give him 35,000 wage award, wherever they got that idea, nobody knows, and people are clapping. So asking me how we are faring, even the chickens know how we are faring, that the university system is not doing well. That the university system has degenerated. And when I say degenerated, in so many ways, it's not just about what we are earning. Is it infrastructure? Is it in terms of the caliber of lecturers being employed? Teaching is one thing that shouldn't become a humanitarian, used for humanitarian gesture. I want to help this person get employment. Therefore, I mean, where can I put him? So university, you throw him into that university to go and cause generational problems. Generational problems because he's going to teach somebody, and that person will either go to the society to work, to render some kind of services, half-baked, not well prepared, or you are putting him to teach somebody who will teach another person and who will teach, so it's a chain. We are creating a chain of problems. That's why we are supposed to take the best. First class, somebody graduates first class, you take him or her, you employ him second class upper and so on. Not just anything. You come to a situation where you say, hey, that fellow works like a lecturer, let us employ him.
It works like a lecturer.
It doesn't work like that.
Okay, now, Prof, talking about taking somebody who are first class or second class upper. Now, I personally think there are some people that are good academically. They can study, go write exam, pass, but they are not really good in impacting the knowledge they have. Like, okay, let's say I wrote this and I passed. Does it mean I would necessarily be able to teach others exactly what I know?
Well, you have to open the door first to your best. Then when they now come in, you interview them. You'll be able to know who is suitable to teach or who is not. I'm not saying that everybody who has first class. Teaching is a vocation. It's a calling. You have to have that calling. You have to have the passion. It depends on the panel interviewing now to say this person has the requisite qualification, both in the certificate and in the other, in the ability to teach. But there are universities in this part of the world, under this part of the sky, where interviews are not conducted. You give somebody employment letter, and he or she is teaching for about 2-3 years before they are now interviewed. Who does that in this world? In the modern world. I'll tell you that in 2019, I felt a bit frustrated. Let me confess that I was frustrated by a number of things where I'm working. And I applied to SOAS, University of London, to take up. I was what you call reader, associate professor at that time, which I had been for about 10 years or 8 years or 9 years at that time. And I applied to become a senior lecturer in art history at the University of London. They paid my ticket to come. They paid hotel. They paid for feeding for about how many days? About 4 or 5 days. So that shows you the importance attached to your possible employment. It is not just we are looking for somebody to teach African art. You've been in UNN, come, so we employ you. No. And I got there. How were we interviewed? I keep telling this story wherever I have the opportunity, because it baffles me what we do in this part of the world. For a whole day I was interviewed, 3 panels. 9 o'clock, the first panel came, professors, about 4, 5, 6 of them, and they were firing questions here and there, and I was answering. At the end of the day, another panel came. I was taken to another panel, professors and non-academics. We were there for about an hour or 2. Then the third panel, late afternoon, PhD students, master's students, non-academics, another interview, and you felt there was something going on, something serious. Not a situation where you come and you see people saying, address us for 5, tell us about your profession for 5 minutes, and you get up and blab. At the end of the day, you say, take a bow, and go. because you already have.
Maybe once you are good in public speaking, it means you're a good lecturer.
You already have the letter of employment a year or two ago. That is very, very terrible. I've been in a panel where somebody was interviewed somewhere, a non-academic staff, and they said, what is booting in computer? The person was going to work as a dean's secretary, and she didn't know what was booting. Then there was a deputy vice chancellor of that institution there, and he quickly intervened. Apparently, he knew the woman and said, you don't know booting, but you will learn, and you get to learn what it is. We hope you are ready to learn on the job. And she said yes. And everybody chorused yes. And she went. Then I've been in another panel where they said there was going to be ICT questions. And somebody was, the person who was asking ICT questions said, tell us your email address to a candidate. And she mentioned her email address and went. I said, how can you ask this type of questions? If you were going to have this interview, why are there not serious ICT questions? Why don't you ask her? How can ICT help your area? What is your area of specialization? How can you use ICT to enhance your teaching or whatever? Even a chicken will know what its email address is. Why should it be a question you are asking at the university level? No. And some people now say, Professor Ikwuemesi, if you have better ICT, why don't you? I mean, scornfully, because you had mentioned something that should be considered important. So the point I'm trying to make is that it shouldn't be about only this problem is two ways. Are you earning the right thing? No. Is everybody employed to teach in the university system qualified to be in the university system? No. So we need to look at it, the problem holistically and know that water has entered the ear of the proverbial vegetable, and we need to know how it entered. It's not only through the poor remuneration, but also through the employment harnessing of the wrong people into. And I tell you, I say it, Nigerian university system, it's a keg of gunpowder. Not just like based on what is paid, but because so many people who cannot even write their names are parading themselves as lecturers because they knew somebody who brought them in, or they knew somebody who brought them in, and so on. That is not the germ of, building a sustainable education, especially when you consider that education is supposed to be, or rather, education should enable a conversation between generations. You have to have the right people who can, enable education, broker that kind of conversation.
Talking about the right people now, from what you have said, we've figured out that the wrong people are being employed. How about we channel, our other attention to other institutions, let's say College of Education, polytechnics, or maybe technical schools? I think that is where we'll find more of people who really know what they are doing. I think in my second year, they were telling us that he was actually a lecturer. He said that in the university, they do more of theory, less of practical. But when you go to College of Education, maybe polytechnics or any technical school, that you see more of practicals, saying that those people that graduate from there, they have more practical knowledge, but university certificate speaks volume. Now, the problem is that even those who graduate from the university with the first class, second class, upper, as you said, they will all apply for a scholarship abroad to go do their master's, PhD, feeling that the certificates of the abroad universities will be higher than that of Nigeria. Now, the question is, how is it that we have professors, we have those that have gone there, they have returned, maybe they finished here back then, and they are now real professors? Why is it that relating this educational academics to our health sector, if you see a minister or a president, any top official, once the person is sick, they fly the person to India. Like they just take the person abroad where you have more medical facilities. Now, here, people run away to go and get that knowledge. Now, what exactly is now the problem? Because we have those people that have graduated, they know what they are doing. Is this still politics playing in our education system? I remember one particular president. They told him to bring his secondary school or primary school certificate. That is a criteria to becoming the president. He wasn't able to provide it. Later, they said that he brought something. Now, I think politics is playing a role here in the universities, because if you say, are they being paid more or less, then who are we employing? People will argue that even in the politics we are talking about, the employments or whatever, it is a professor. It's always a professor that will be a returning officer to installing who is going to lead the nation.
I don't want to cut you short, but let us say that the influence of politics in Nigeria is totalizing. The professor is politicized, university is politicized. I keep telling people that academics today is more of 90% politics and 10% academics. We have lost our essence as academics, and that is why politicians can manipulate professors.
So
we become errand boys. So that's why they call people. You give somebody 1 million or 5 million, and he's ready to do evil. He's ready to compromise himself and help to rig in somebody who is less educated and all that. So the problem is, you are talking about colleges of education. It is not better anyway. I don't believe in that logic that people in the university do more of theory. It was people from University of Nigeria, for instance, that gave birth to IMT when it started in the 70s. A good percentage of the lecturers, I can talk about the art department, for instance, was a child then, but we have seen the history, that went and created that place. The charters may not be the same, the mandates may not be the same, but the problem is general. It is not just in the university system. We have very brilliant people, students, but they are shortchanged by the system that they don't get everything that they should get. And that's why you have very bright Nigerian doctors abroad working in places where everything tends to be working, and they cannot function here. So it's a problem. I think what we should be talking about even is, must everybody go to the university? Must everybody teach in the university? I remember when Ezekwesili was Minister of Education, and she tried to create vocational schools. So you can have, you mustn't come to the university, for instance, to study art. You can go to a vocational school to study photography. You can go to a vocational school to study decoration, painting and decoration. You can go somewhere else and study interior decoration and so on. I say so because I accompanied late Peter Ray, who was the director of the defunct Pendulum Center for Culture and Development to Abuja to defend his proposal, which I wrote. I wrote the proposal on how Pendulum could establish a vocational school for art, photography, woodwork, furniture, and so on. And we defended it successfully. But in Nigeria, once somebody goes, his ideas and policies go. So when Ezekwesili was suddenly appointed one of the directors or whatever at the World Bank, she left and that idea died. You can't have a system where everybody must go to the university, people who cannot write their names. You have students who steal from year one to, robbers, academic robbers. From year one to final year, he's stealing from people, passing exam.
Exam malpractice.
At the end of the day, he knows nothing. He has learned nothing. He has forgotten nothing. Then you have people who are academics, they have nothing to impart. And they are teaching. And that's why I talk about, when I talk about teaching, we should also look at the other side. In Igbo philosophy, Nkuzi, Nkogo. The other one, brings up the image of a panel beater who helps to shape Nkuzi. Then you have Nkogo, Onye Nkogo, who helps to batters whatever that exists, and turns creates nothingness out of something. So that is the kind of people you have. You have more of Ndi Nkogo than Ndi Nkuzi, and nobody cares the type of thing we are imparting in children. At times, some people think it's about maybe you get to a place, you preach to the students, you talk about religion. That is not it. You should be able to impart knowledge. Knowledge is not about talking about God and as a teacher. That is not your mandate. Faith belongs to a different realm. Education belongs to a different realm. Although I tend to see a connection between the priest and the teacher, because we are all trying to raise young people, shape them, mold them into something, into somebody. But you don't have to, if it's either you are teaching or you are not teaching. And we have more of cheaters than teachers today. We have cheaters than teachers, and that is why we are suffering. So the point I'm making is, while we argue that professors, teachers should earn more, we should also try to see that the bright people are called to teach. It should not be an all-comers thing. Otherwise, society will suffer. And when I say suffer, I say cross-generational suffering. It's not just with one generation. Any child that is miseducated is going to, there's a ripple effect. Because it's either he's teaching or he's working in society and doing the wrong thing, spreading the wrong values, which has been implanted in him or her by a cheater, not a teacher.
So if you ask me personally, I don't have an answer to this, but Prof, do you see the academic system in Nigeria becoming better in the future?
The academic system in Nigeria can only become better if the right system of employment, not an all-comers situation, right system of employment that tends to attract the best, and also good remuneration so that people can feel dignified.